Welcome to the Seven Crosses series for Workers and Resources Soviet Republic. We're picking up on the 23rd of October 2034. Now this is 2.5 years on since the end of part 169, which was the last part where I was actually working on the actual game seriously. And the reason for that is it's just taken that amount of time to get the two metro lines complete so that I can do this part where we're going to be populating the trains on this metro style system. But the reason we're down in the bottom left hand corner is I've also had a request to give you a bit of an update of what's going on the rest of the map. Now what I'm actually going to do is I can't give you a detailed update because one, I want to get on doing the metro. Two, I'm starting to get performance issues, and if I zoom in too close I'm starting to get random crashes. But what I'll do is I'll just give you a quick run through and talk about some of the problems I've had over the last 2.5 years, and it has been a little bit challenging, and in a way it's a bit of a shame that I didn't actually record them, but some of these come up were totally unexpected. Little tourist town down here hasn't changed at all, but one thing I do want to show you is the fact that the coal fueling station here seems to has broken. So what I've had to do is put in a diesel station and reinstate the tourist trap by a diesel train bringing it into here. And the other problem I also had was up in my shipping line, all my hydrofoil ships got stuck off the map. So what I had to do is delete them all and then replace them with new ships. So this is one of the reasons why I don't have quite as much money as I was hoping for. So that was a little bit of fun. Now, another problem that sneaked up on me, and it did give me a bit of a headache, but luckily it was not long after I finished part 169, was I was going round and I noticed that my chemical production was stalling. And what had actually happened is that this area here, all the trees had been exhausted. So what I did is I quickly respawned the trees. I got a truck to haul some logs across the map and just kind of grinned and bared it as the electronic production dropped, because obviously the chemicals ran out on plastic. And of course my happiness tanked. I think it got down to about 69% because of the lack of electronics, plus another complicating issue which I'll talk about in a minute. But the annoying thing is that when the trees grew up, the original woodcutter was here, wouldn't recognize it. So what I had to end up doing was rebuilding the woodcutter. Now, I don't know if that's actually a bug or whether it was just the fact that the game is staggering along a little bit. So I went through this rough patch where things got a bit dire and the productivity dropped, and that had a consequence which I'll talk about in a little while. But beyond that, everything in this area is exactly the same. The difference now is this rail construction office is now doing nothing because we've got no more track to build. Now, if I come over to Ollerton, there's been no real main change in Ollerton, but one thing that got potentially dangerous was the fact that this tower here, for some reason, lost its connection to the actual cableway station. So when I came in here, instead of having 242 workers, I had 30, which meant that my fuel down here was virtually empty. Luckily, I caught it in time. The other thing I do want to do is just check this. I think what I might have to do is reinstigate the train that imports oil, which I deleted because that was one of the ones that was using coal. Oh, there's a shipment coming in here. Yeah, I think we're okay. One thing I have noticed is I seem to be using a lot less fuel than I did before. Now, if we come over to Knife Edge, there's not been any real change in the area of Knife Edge here. Say this area has been relatively stable and nothing much has happened. If we come to Foodville, if you watched one of the previous videos, you'd be aware that I was having a bit of a meat problem, but I'm kind of holding up. That's because we've got the new meat area, so the division is actually split. We come over to our clothes production. I think it was in the last video I noticed that my clothes production was being strained. So what I've done is put in a couple of apartment blocks here. And what that's done is it's kind of pushed up the workforce on these 4 clothing factories. And at the moment they're plugging the gap. Plus I did do a little bit of an adjustment to my backup clothing factory that's down here. although which is kind of producing, but it's effectively feeding Knife Edge and Colville. Colville, not much has changed over here. Things are going along okay. I think that generally the happiness is good. So the happiness has been a little bit of a roller coaster, but I think it's been repaired here. Yeah, we're up to 84, 86% here. Stilton, again, there's not been much change in Stilton. The only thing is that my steel production is kind of dropping a little bit, but I think that's partly because I'm starting to export too much steel at the moment. I'll show you if I show you my economy, at the moment we're exporting a lot more steel than I thought, but then that should ease off because my current construction cycle is coming to an end. Now, one of the real painful things is electronics, because I'm having to import quite a lot of electronics. In fact, I think if I go back to last month, you see I imported nearly 98 million rubles worth of electronics. It's only 32 tons, but that's the consequence of that problem I had with the chemical production. But you can see how expensive this is. I mean, basically I'm paying nearly 3 million rubles per ton of electronics at the moment, but at the moment I'm quite happy to live with that, because but at the moment I'm quite happy to live with that simply because I want to get the metro system sorted out first. Up here, this is going okay. I think the iron ore is holding up really well, and generally this area is pretty rock solid. And we've done the clothing here. I go up to Nuclear City. I think Nuclear City is just ticking along, doing its own thing. Again, no major changes here, and no real scares either. Now the big scare, and it was a very close run thing, I actually only discovered it by accident because I started getting lots of messages saying happiness is really low. And what had happened is that I think it was partly the consequence of the electronics coming here. You can see that the happiness is still quite low in here, and it is down to electronics. So it still takes, and this is one of the problems. If you get a shortfall of electronics, it's like a bit like a balloon inflating. These electronics spread from the source of production. So you get a place like this, which is right out on the boundary. It takes a lot longer for the electronics to get out here, and you can see they've got no electronics at the moment. And what happened is that the productivity dropped, so that was cool. And what happened is the unhappiness dropped here, which then started to affect productivity. And when I came out here, I suddenly realized that the happiness here was down nearly 64%. And what that did is it reduced my food production. And also when I came into here, there was no surplus in here at all. So what I had to do was put in another food factory and build these 2 apartment blocks tacked on the end here in an attempt to try and get the overall productivity back up. And I think because we've now got, I think we're getting not levels of staff in here that I was hoping for, but I can't really get the population into here. But I think this one here is actually carrying the support of the overall process. This is one thing that I'm finding I'm increasingly having to do is click on the node. What I'd like to do is guard changes. 1, I want you on the priority. 2, I want you on the priority. 3, I just want you to yield. What that means is the trucks that are trying to get in and deliver the crops will be able to get through. Although it looks like most of them are more in, they're trying to get into, no, they're coming into here. This is probably not a very good crossroads actually, so maybe I do need to change this to 4 and take off 1, put 1 back that way, just get that done. I'm trying to think of other places where we got we've been here, haven't we? And then the tourist town up here is working pretty well. And this is the tourist port where all the boat ships stopped coming in from both the Soviet and the NATO, and they were actually trapped behind the border. Now, one change I've got up here is I've put another clothing manufacturing complex in here. We've got the tramway over here, and I've set this up. And one tip, what I will say is I did put a one-way station in here, but for some reason the trams kept insisting on coming this way and not finding the station, so I had to go back to a double-sided one. I did try putting a waypoint in, but didn't seem to be able to pick things up. Anyway, guys, that is the general sweep round what's going on the map. Now, I'm just going to show you, we're going to go underground. I'm just going to show you the routes that have now been finished. What we've got is the end-to-end route. This is the one we're going to do first, which runs all the way through up to the tourist town here. The reason I'm going to do this one first is the fact that it's relatively straightforward. Now, the other one comes round here and route round here, then comes above ground here and runs through here. And just to show you, what I've already done is I've gone round and set the station. So like this one will only accept workers. This one will accept workers and tourists. And then we got a couple more around here that will just accept workers as well. Then if we get to this area here, you can see this will accept everybody but not tourists. Now, I've built a number of groups of apartment blocks in. This one's all populated, a lot more populated than it should be, because when I built this one, which I didn't intend to populate, I forgot to switch off the switch here. And what I've also done is I've built this little area here, and this area is populated. But you can see these are quite happy because they can't, I've deliberately stopped them getting in here direct. So at the moment they're relying on a tram system, which is a little bit overloaded. What I need to do is get the metro in to take the pressure off, especially the initial line. Now, before we get into that, I want to point out one thing I have found by monitoring this tram system. That is kindergartens. Now, this kindergarten is fully manned because these buildings are populated. But one thing I've noticed is the one building that residents don't seem to want to travel for is a kindergarten. And that's the reason why I've had to build in a couple of kindergartens inside of here. What was happening is they were all complaining that they couldn't get to a kindergarten, yet they had a perfectly good tram line to come up to here. The school, no problem. The students would travel by tram to come up to here. And I think probably the reason for that is that babies, which would be in kindergarten, are not actually, we could say, a tangible asset on the map compared to small children. Because if you look at all the children, they're all kind of 6, 7 years of old. I think it's only when you get into here that you actually see them as an icon, as a baby within the building, which is the same as within an kindergarten. If you find a kindergarten, so you get babies in here. So it's almost like the babies are transported by their parents, and their parents won't travel to drop them off at a kindergarten. So that's a point to remember. Anyway, guys, let's just get down to one more thing. Sorry about this. One thing you do need to do, I did a bit of a test run before in preparation for this video, and what I found is that you don't want any signals on the metro lines. You may need them for your construction trains. That's why we got there. And I think if you watch a previous video, you will know that I had signals in here. But what happens is if you have signals on the lines, the signaling gets a bit confused, especially as the fact that trying to put signals onto tunnels is, one, very difficult, and two, they're very difficult. They're very hard to see. And in fact, I'm not convinced I've got all the signals off of the circular route, because I had to put signals on actually in the tunnels to allow the borers and construction trains to work. So what we're going to do is, I've already got one train in here, and what we're going to do is we're going to buy. I'm going to go for the fastest and biggest. We're going to buy 4 of these, and then what we're going to do is go underground, and we're going to start with the end station here. And of course that doesn't pick up. We're going to come to this station. Now there's no point unloading, but they can pick up everything. Then we're going to come to here, and they can load, unload, get off. Now what I'm going to do for the first test run is I'm not going to enable this because it says force citizens to step out of this vehicle at this stop and transfer a point to another line. But what I want is citizens to travel through this area here. Oops, no. And we're going to have the same rule here, because this will eventually could be close to a residential area here. So there's some citizens will want to work up to here. This next one, what we're going to do is we're going to load no one, and all we're going to do is unload workers, because this is a working site. We can load workers but unload anybody, because what I want to know is whether people will travel here to go to church. And then what we're going to have here is just unload any workers. And of course we're going to go to the end station, and then we're going to come back to here. I think the game's saving. Better be. Every time the game pauses now, I get very worried. There's no need to unload. Don't think we want workers getting on here, because any workers we want come into there, but we'll let any random people travel on this. This one, I think we'll just leave the way it is. This one, we're going to unload workers here. This unloading and loading workers will be a bit more of a feature on when we do the circular underground. This one, I think, unload. I mean, it is a potential residential area, so make sure we get the right line. This one, again, they can just do whatever they want. Then here, it's just going to be unload only, and I think that is about it. We're just going to launch and let the game run. Let me just break this down here. Speed the game up. What I'm going to do is we're just going to monitor the train on one circuit first, and then if it all works good, because this is the first time we've run a passenger train down this route, so we want to make sure that it works. So he's paused in there, and how many people? Oops. So we got loads of people here. Let me just move that up to there, and make it a little bit more graphic. So at the moment we're loading a couple of, right, so we've got 256 workers, 139 passengers, 130 students. So what we're going to do now is just travel along the line, and we've stopped. So all the students are getting off, probably to go to university. There's the passengers most likely to go to the shop and get some food. For some reason, one student decided to remain. We've got 204 workers here. Now, in theory, no one should get off here. Now, we just picked up a few more workers. Now, what I'm hoping is that a big proportion of these workers are going to get off the next stop. If they don't, this is going to be very embarrassing. Because this is where I want the workers, because here we've got the geothermal plant. We also got a prison and a fire station. Look at that. Brilliant. Right, we've got 55 workers left. That's interesting. We've got one student. I'm just kind of looking for unsatisfied. So, what do you want? What are you wanting to do? So we're now getting in here. Wow, we just picked up a lot of workers. Where are you going? Yeah, you didn't get off the... Okay, let me keep the game paused. We got lots of people coming down here, but the trouble is we don't know where they came from. Interested to see whether... Look at that. Looks like they're going to church. That's awesome. That's exactly what I wanted to see. Because if we can get this actually working, right, this train's now got there. For some reason we've still got 9 workers who want to go to the end. Okay. Now, what would make... Oh, we got electricity problem, yeah. And I've got a power problem as well. What I would like to see is some tourists. Okay, we picked up 15 tourists. Now, what I want to know is whether those tourists will get off at the next stop, or will go all the way into the centre and get off and transfer to a tram. We got 3 tourists there. We've got 62 passengers. We've got 87 workers. No students, so obviously no one on this end. They, mind you, they've got their own university. But then I might flatten that fairly soon. And we've just got rid of all the workers, but none of the passengers got off. Our 3 tourists. In theory, I'm not sure. Tourists should get off here. Nope, we just picked up a few more passengers who obviously want to get into town. Right, let's see what happens when they get here. I'm assuming all the passengers would get off and the tourists have got off, so they've obviously come to visit the features here. We picked up some passengers here. Why people would want to go to this end, I haven't got the slightest idea, because all we got here is residential, and I mean they can't be going home. Let me just see. What are you doing? We're walking to Zaveneman Corner Market. The corner market is down here. Okay. Interesting. I want to follow this guy. I'm impressed by it. So he's come all the way from town to... Oops, sorry about that. So he came all the way to town from this town centre there to get to that corner market. And I mean, in some ways that is encouraging, because it means that if things develop, they will now travel a distance to get things. So what I'm going to do now is we're just going to go for the ballistic approach now. Just going to let the game run. Now, what you've got to do is don't release these too quickly. Otherwise, what they will do is block up. Or now, the next thing I want to look at is down here underground. I want to... He just went... Oh, wrong one, sorry. Because what I want to make sure... I've given them a 60-second spacing. So that is actually working. I think the 60 seconds might be a bit short, but the question I'm interested in is whether this guy... Yeah, so he's leaving, but he's leaving as soon, so the 60 seconds has expired. So the 60 seconds might be a little bit too short, but we can fine-tune that. So that's the end-to-end line. We're just going to let that run now and see how it goes. Now, what we're going to do now... Oh, nasty pause there. So we've got the station here. Now, what I haven't bothered... This is the wrong one, sorry. This is the metro depot. That is the depot I put in the previous part for moving trams. So this is the train depot. First thing I want to do is just check that I've removed all the signals from here. Yeah. So this is the kind of setup you've got. I mean, truthfully, this is just for construction trains, so I could remove that now. And again, what we're going to do here is I'm going to buy metro, and I'm going to buy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because this is a very long line. A bit worried about that. So what we're going to do is just drag you down there, and what we're going to do is go round, what is it, clockwise. So this one first. Whoops, don't load anybody here. What you're going to do is just drop off workers. Now I'm not expecting this, because this is going to be after coming through all through here, so this is just going to be an insurance drop off for the, and the same with this one, because I'm hoping that any workers wanting to get to here will come the opposite way. And then what we got to do is drop that in, and then we got the metro station here. Of course, this has to go both directions, because this is going to be two separate lines going in opposite directions. I don't think we'll unload tourists here, because we will have tourists on the train from the airport. In case any tourists get lost, we'll leave it that way. So you will come into here. You will come into here. This will be a general free-for-all. Now this one, what would you say? Load, unload. This is where it gets difficult, because ideally I would like to say I want workers going that way and anyone going that way, but the setting is only for a single station, so we're gonna have to live with what we've got. You're gonna unload just workers. I'm working on the principle, if I don't give them something to do, and then we're going to come through to here again. This time you're going to load tourists, because the tourists will come in by plane, hopefully. Emphasis on the hopefully. And that should be it. So we'll just get lined up, and then we'll just zap this, unpause, and I just want to make sure I've got the route set properly. I think the flipping above and below ground and all sorts of things can be a bit interesting. And we'll come here, it stops here. Now the next stop is quite crucial, because this is supposed to space the trains out, but based on what I've just seen, this might need a little bit of fine-tuning. Come in here. There's no workforce here yet, because these buildings aren't populated, so there's no one got on the train yet. So the next station will be whether we're going to pick up anyone here who wants to go over to. Nope, nobody. We'll see, not of great interest. Got any workers here? I think what we might need to do is just. Nobody got on. Okay. I don't care. We're just gonna have to try and, I think probably part of the problem at the moment, whoops, is that probably everybody here has got a job. That says 145 workers without a job. Oh, spot the deliberate mistake. When I built this, I didn't. Okay, we're just gonna make that link there. Because of course, what they won't do is travel through this. So that should get their attention now. Yeah, look at that. Right, now moving into snow, which is a bit unfortunate, but that's the way it's got to go. Right. I've lost the train. Where is it? Where would he be? Actually, can we get, does this show up on the... Right, I think what I'm going to do is we're going to set the route up the opposite way. So what we've got to do now is go the opposite direction. So we're going to go here. Again, the same principle as before. We're going to unload the workers. We don't want tourists. Unload the workers. No tourists. Going to go below. Where is it? This one, I think we want all our workers from this area to go out the opposite way. So they've got business to come here for food, but I don't want workers in this area. This one will be general purpose. This one, we can unload anybody, but we want workers going that way as well, don't we? But there's, what's the next station? I'm on the wrong line here, aren't I? Okay. Right, let's start again. I've messed that up completely. I flipped lines. That would have made life interesting. Right, guys, I'm just going to do it again, and we're unload. Of course. Unload. Except for workers. Below. And load everyone but all workers, but not no, it's got to be that way, isn't it? You've got to load everybody and unload everybody. It's messy again. No, because you're coming this way, aren't you? Yeah, we don't want workers, that's it. But we can unload. Pick this one up here. That can be anybody. This is the right one. We're going in the right direction, aren't we? Yep. You can unload everybody, but you can only load workers here because we don't really want anyone wandering round this route. Because we only really want workers coming out this way. Then we come above ground, we drop the unload workers. If that will work. What I'm going to do is try and release these at intervals. Put you over there because you're the train. Oh, that's the downside of not having signals, but luckily this is a one-off. Okay. Release you. He's got nice and clear. How many oh, close that temporarily. How many trains have we got on this? 1, 2, 3. Thank you, autosave. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 at the moment. So what we need is, we're probably going to need more, but I'd rather have not enough and then build up than too many. And we get 1, 2, 3. Make sure he's going the right way. Yep, he's off in the right direction. Oh, the other train has come through. That's okay. In fact, I'm going to release these in fairly quick succession. Because I want to try something. Pause. I'm going to come. What I want to do is just see. We want to get here. Unpause. Right, this train has just left. What I want to do is make sure that this is kind of enforcing. This is a 30 seconds time lapse, but that train is there. There's a variable time. Fixed time. Did that train go back the other way? Let me just check. I was a bit worried about the fact that that train seemed to go the opposite direction. No, we've got 4 on each direction. Okay, so they are waiting, which is putting in the spacings on that line there. Right, the question now is whether we're going to get any workers. Okay, I'm going to need to reduce the... So we are getting workers out here. I don't want too many workers out here because I want to get workers into here. Whoa! Helicopter flashed across my... Oops, don't... 0. 39 there. Because more importantly, what I want is workers out here. Because we're going to need workers in the control tower. Because the temperature's a bit too low. Right, guys. If I can find a train. Just going to follow a train in this direction first, and then we'll see what happens. Of course, he's not going to pick up anything here. Right, we picked up 112 passengers here, and they're going off in that direction. Right, I would guess that they're all going to get off here. I do wonder whether if I put a force them off the train at that station there. Okay, so we're not picking up any workers from here, which means we're not getting any workers going out this way. Yeah. Okay. Just pause. Turn around. There's a train going the other way. Let me just see what he's got. Just follow him. So obviously this area, people aren't interested in travelling. But then they've got a tram route. So I would guess that workers will still want to go to their nearest destination. I picked up 20 workers here. So we're going to need more workers in order to supply this area here, which is a little bit disappointing, but that's the way it goes. So I'm going to need to keep the bus services going just at the moment. And more importantly, we should now be aluminium oxide. Yeah, we are producing maximum production workday aluminium oxide. It says we should be storing this item. We're just creating a trickle, aren't we? And we're pushing it into there. Yeah, I mean, we're basically what we're producing is just so tiny, it's barely registering. The disappointment is we're not getting workers to this station, so we're going to need to keep the buses running just for the moment. That's a bit lower than it should be. How's the population? We've got 1,929 because, of course, it's the depth of winter. We've lost a bit of happiness, which means something's going wrong somewhere. I want to... At the moment, a lot of these apartment blocks are kind of empty. There's no kindergarten. You've got a kindergarten here. It's full. Again, we've got a perfectly big... We're getting a few kids over here, but it's not in range. And again, this is a good example that they won't travel to a kindergarten. So what we're going to need to do is put in another kindergarten, shove it in about there. That's well connected. Bit annoying because we'll just get the helicopter crews on. They've basically got nothing to do at the moment, so we've now got our first lines and just see what... There's 23 people without a job, but I do wonder whether we're going to need more metro trains, because we are getting more and more workers into here. We're just going to need the metro trains to get the frequency, aren't we? Wow. Wait, I want to go underground. See, these, so they're like traveling in groups, aren't they? I think maintaining the gaps is going to be slightly tricky. How many workers have you got? Yeah. I think what I'm going to do, be a bit risky in the middle of winter, because I don't know whether the heating's actually on. Where is it? No one lives here. Okay, we're just gonna let 100 people or so in here. Right, no jobs. Okay. Just let some more in. No one lives there. Okay. We've got about 700 people who I've just let into this area here. Just to see the population. Well, we got a little bit of a surplus, so let's just be generous, shall we? I mean, what could go wrong? So bring you into there. You're there. What's your problems? No culture, no electronics. Isn't that surprise? Workers. I don't really want to let workers in here until the kindergartens work, because that won't do anything. All right, you've got workers. You've got workers. You've got workers. Yeah, it looks like this area is fully populated. What's the station? Oops. Yeah. Right, what I'm going to do is we're just going to do one more quick experiment from the point of view this. So we're in Metropodensky metro station. Where is it? It does put a force on. Throwing it on that one. Sorry. Yep, it's on there. Okay. We're just going to follow the train. Where are you? I think I might have just put it on the wrong one. That's this one. I think it's just because I changed the route. Right, just get rid of that platform. It's just the every large number of everybody just got off. Wrong station, wrong train. Sorry. So everybody just got off and then just got back on again. Right, let me just confirm that because I messed it up completely. We got our guy here. So he's getting everybody on board. So we to try and get an idea of the numbers. Wow. 284 workers. So yeah, gonna come into here. We've got 108 students, 135 passengers, no tourists. See, we're throwing everybody off the train, aren't we? Aren't we? Yep. It's definitely this. Well, just want to. This one doesn't have. Right, guys. I think I'm going to need to do some experimentation with this. Because I don't seem to have changed the route. Let me just do that again. It'd be that one, isn't it? Okay, let me just do it again. It's changed it now. Right, we're just going to find the next train. This is where we'll probably wait a week for it to turn up. Right, here comes the train. Put you over there. So everybody's piling on. So we're just gonna follow. The train's coming into here. So it looks like we're throwing. Everybody's getting chucked off the train. That's. All the students are gone, all the passengers, and then everyone's getting back on the train again. I just wonder whether if you chuck people off the train, if you make a forced change position there, whether it would get them to change lines if they've got a working requirement. That's what I'm really looking for, is some kind of interchange here. Right, we're going to leave it that way and just let it run for the moment. Aware that I'm running out of time and I've probably bored you guys completely to death, because one thing I'm finding with this game is if you're really into trains and train sets, this game can give you the electronic version of it. So we got 40 workers out there without food. Yes, we might have an issue here. So this is where I'm going to leave it. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Hope you found it interesting. And until next time, whatever you do, enjoy your gaming.